Welcome to Mom Motivation Mondays, where each week we tackle a topic of motherhood and parenting. My name is Jamie Erickson, founder of the Stay-at-Home Mom Survival Guide, and your host here. Today we're talking about that dirty word, discipline. Does it make you uncomfortable? It shouldn't. But let me share a little story about why I think discipline gets a bad rap and how you can feel more comfortable teaching your children self-discipline. My oldest and I were at a play group years ago with a few other children. He was a toddler at the time. It was not a large group of people, but my son at that age was a total follower. He wanted to follow the big kids. They made him laugh, and whatever they did looked like a lot of fun. The problem was he was about 16 months old. He was not at a stage where he could think about his actions or understand right and wrong on his own. He only saw the big boys running and making messes and thought, since they looked like they were having fun, that he needed to be a part of that. The other moms were not getting involved. I don't know why. Two moms were deep in conversation and did not appear to really notice that their boys, who were about 3 to 4 years old, were pushing toys all over the floor, taking toys away from other kids, and basically being kind of irritating. They needed some intervention, some discipline lessons to teach them that the behavior they were acting out was not okay. I noticed my little 16-month-old mimicking them. He normally played well with kids. That was his problem. He was too social, if that's even a thing. He wanted to be in a social group, even at 16 months old. I needed to teach him right from wrong. No way my child was going to think that acting in that destructive way was okay or fun. I walked across the room from where I was seated near a friend of mine and immediately told my child that he needed to pick up the toys he pushed to the floor. I said we need to keep the toys on the table and not take the toys away from others. Being 16 months old, I was going to have to say these statements on repeat for about the next 3 years. That is a fact. My son and I picked up the toys together. I wanted to show him the positive behavior. I asked him to play nicely and walked back to my mom friends. That lasted about a minute. He saw the big boys on their rampage and headed back to join in. That was it. We had to go. I needed to make a point, and one that was appropriate for a 16-month-old. I walked over to my son, held his hand, and said, "You are not playing nicely. That means we have to go home." A lesson in discipline happened in that moment. He cried, full-on tantrum. He leaned back in my arms like he wanted to break free. Have your kids ever done that? It made me feel like a terrible mom that my child would throw such a big tantrum. But you know what? He got strapped into his car seat. I pretty much repeated 100 times in a row, "You did not play nicely, so we have to leave." He probably didn't register all of my words, but my actions showed him that his behavior was not okay. He was only a little guy, but he was still learning. If we had stayed and he had continued to misbehave, I would not have been teaching him how to play well with others. His actions were affecting him and the other children. My parenting actions had to respond. Our parenting choices and philosophy must take a wider view. We must realize that our decisions about how we raise our children impact every human being that our children encounter in their lives. I really believe this. Does it sound crazy? How my child acts at a play group impacts the other children in the room. If I let my child make noise, run around, push other kids' toys around that are inappropriate for that space and time, he will cause other kids to have a bad time, maybe dislike him, act inappropriately around the other adults. If I sit back and think, well, better that he gets it out here rather than at home, then I am thinking selfishly. Children need lessons, discipline, boundaries, whatever word you want to use to describe how you parent your child. So many children need more boundaries within the context of learning and engaging with the world around them. Plenty of time for open-ended play and exploration. That means you're not dictating to them what they're playing, and they're really using their creativity. But they also need a healthy amount of lessons regarding self-control and adhering to appropriate rules at appropriate times. And we call this discipline. When we teach our children that there are no rules, what happens when they go to another house and there are rules? What happens when they go to school and there's a structure and an order to the day that is intentionally set up and required to be followed? This structure and order teaches self-awareness and self-control, by the way. If we take the stance as parents that we have no rules and do not discipline, then we teach our children to be selfish. They don't respect boundaries, and therefore they'll set an example to other children that there are no boundaries. I am all for teaching children critical thinking skills and questioning authority when the critical thinking has revealed inappropriate conduct of an adult. Yes, teach the lessons that appear each day. If an adult who did something terrible to a child is discussed on the news, use it to teach about personal space, not trusting strangers, and right versus wrong. But to set the foundation of educating about self-control while not teaching a child to be disciplined is destructive to encouraging respect for adults and awareness of others' needs. Dietitians teach self-control. When it comes to eating, they call it discipline, right? Trainers encourage discipline when it comes to working out regularly. Teachers teach discipline in regards to study habits. Why is discipline a dirty word in parenting? Teaching why boundaries exist to protect us and others, and why we need to respect well-intentioned boundaries so we don't hurt ourselves and others is essential in parenting. I encourage you to develop your discipline strategy. It does us a huge favor to live in a disciplined manner if we're trying to teach it to our children. It really is simple. Eat well, exercise, treat others with respect. Thinking of it in those terms, thinking of discipline in that way, makes it sound like a pretty good goal and a pretty good word to me. Discipline is not a dirty word. It is essential in parenting. So that being said, how are you teaching your children to be disciplined? What things are you doing as a parent to set a disciplined example? What things are you doing when you notice your child not behaving appropriately? What are you doing to step in, to stop the situation, to guide, and to teach? These are all really important questions we have to ask ourselves and have a working game plan for how to deal with these situations as they pop up, even when we have little toddlers. I know it was helpful for me to really sit down and think about how I needed to act in order to help set an example for my children. And none of us are perfect. We'll have bad days, and that's part of the process too. Thanks for being here today and listening in to the Stay at Home Mom Guide and Mom Motivation Mondays. Hit like and subscribe to stay notified of every new episode each week. Then subscribe to the free email newsletter linked in the video description to gain access to our subscriber freebie catalog and parenting freebies and checklists, plus the free 4-day mini course to get life back in balance. See you next time on Monday here at the Stay at Home Mom Guide.